It has been like a year, if not longer, since I've made a video. So I figured that I would get back into it by doing my coming out story. And I actually think that I have two coming out stories. The first one being when I came out as gay, the second one being when I came out as bigender. So today I'm going to talk about when I came out as gay. If I remember correctly, it was like the end of 7th grade, maybe the start of 8th grade, but I was about 12 or 13 years old. And I had psyched myself up to finally tell my friends that I was gay, because in the months before that, I had convinced myself that this was not something that I was ever going to tell people. It was something I was going to take to the grave, something that was just not worth bringing up, having a conversation around. But one of my friends had recently come out as bi, and she was accepted with open arms into our group, and that was a really, really big deal to me. And I saw that and I was like, okay, maybe everything's going to be okay. So it was a Friday, we were going on a field trip, and I remember I was sitting next to the first person that I was going to tell, and when I tried to tell her, like, hey, I have something to tell you, it's really, really important, she knew what I was going to say, but I couldn't get the words to come out. It was the weirdest thing. I remember I just couldn't say, I'm Maya and I'm gay. I couldn't say, like, I'm a lesbian. It took the entire day, and I was trying so hard because I had just spent so much time denying it and not wanting to say it and not being ready for, like, what that meant, and, like, was my life going to change, and were people going to look at me differently? But I finally said it. My friends were really supportive, and I remember I went home that night and I, like, went to see my mom, and I was like, Mom, I have to tell you something really important. She looked at me and she was like, okay, like, what's wrong? And I said, I don't like boys. And I started crying, and she was like, well, that's okay, honey, like, what? And then she kind of looked at me and she was like, is it because you like girls? And I said, yes. And her initial reaction was, well, like, let's see, I don't know, like, maybe you're too young. And of course I got angry, and I was like, no, I know who I am, I know what I want, I know what I like. I, like, ran up to my room and I ignored her for the rest of the night. Then the next morning, I remember, because it was Saturday, she woke me up, she knocked on my door, and she like gave me this bag of things, and it was like a tie-dye t-shirt and like a rainbow candle and like all this rainbow stuff. And she said, like, oh, you know, I went out to find these things, and I wasn't sure, so I tried to find these rainbow things for you to let you know that I love you and I support you, and so I wanted to give this to you, which was a really, really big deal, and it meant the world to me. My dad was a little bit harder. My parents are divorced and were divorced then, so he actually found out before me telling him, and I remember he, like, told me to get in the car, and we sat at, it was like an Ace Hardware store in the parking lot, which is ironic, but he, like, turned to me and he was like, why do you think you're a homosexual? And I told him, I was like, well, because I like girls. And he told me it was just a phase. It's obviously not a phase, however many years later, but he finally came around. It took him, unfortunately, until I got through college for him to actually believe, hey, this probably isn't something I'm going to grow out of. But he got there. And then the whole coming out thing is really something that just keeps happening, you know, because the assumption when you meet somebody, unfortunately, is, oh, this person's straight. So it's kind of an everyday thing when you meet new people, go to new events, start new jobs. So I'm always saying, like, hey, I'm Maya, I'm gay, not to mention my interesting gender identity. But yeah, that was my coming out story, the beginning portion. And if you want to talk to me, get to know me better, my Instagram is a really good place to go. I try really hard to answer every single DM that people send me, a little bit better than I am on YouTube currently, but I'm hoping to get better on here too. My Instagram is Cosmicphenomenon. There should be a link to it. And I will be back soon.